Executive Director of Person-Centered Care Services, PCCS. This year, very excited, we're celebrating our 25th anniversary, supporting people with developmental disabilities, not just here in Staten Island, but across all 5 boroughs, Long Island and Hudson Valley. One of the largest services that we provide is supporting people with housing, with finding an apartment. The challenges are, what you'll hear today is accessibility and also housing discrimination, which we're going to touch base upon. I have one of my good friends, Joe Meridiano, here with me. Joe and I know each other for 20 years. Joe, would you mind if I share? Tell me that? Okay, so 20 years ago, I met Joe through a representative, a case manager.
I think it was John Wynn.
John Wynn from the Office of People with Developmental Disabilities, and we met in a parking lot on Highland Boulevard near Kmart. At the time, Kmart existed, for those of you who know what Kmart is.
Yeah.
And Joe was homeless, and when he did have money, he would spend a night or two at the Cosmopolitan Hotel on Highland Boulevard, which I don't think is not there.
Which is now the Highland Inn.
Which is now the Highland Inn, okay. And sometimes Joe said he felt safer sleeping on the street or at the Hess gas station,
Well,
right? All right,
yeah,
all right.
I guess.
Anyway, we met in 2006
Say
and
going to like a shelter.
yes. So we met in 2006 and I worked very hard with the representatives from the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities to go through all that, the process to get Joe qualified for what is called a housing subsidy, although I like to call it a pension. And Joe's been living on his own for 20 years now. And the biggest challenge he's been faced with is he's trying to move back to his hometown of Great Hills. Right now he lives in New Springville, but Joe grew up in Great Hills. And he's been looking for 2 years now, and he cannot find an accessible apartment, meaning he may be able to get into the building, there may be an elevator, but once inside the apartment, he's faced with a bathtub, he's faced with high kitchen cabinets. He's not able to access the sink or reach the faucets because the spaces aren't made for someone who utilizes a wheelchair in that way. There are monies, there are supports that Joe can receive or anyone living on their own who need modifications. That process takes a very long time. Joe's been through that, he's modified the bathroom, great, took a very long time to get that done. The thing is that many landlords, once Joe leaves the apartment, they want Joe to put it back to the way it was. And there's no funding for that. And I'll tell you, having an accessible apartment, an accessible bathroom, an accessible kitchen with the right height countertops, the right cabinets, the right storage, is really a benefit. As we age, I know my parents, they went from living in a house to now they're living in an accessible one story apartment with accessible features. You can't find them that much. So that is an issue. So I think if you're able to have someone living in your apartment, your home, and they're getting monies to renovate it, consider that, a plus, because when that person moves out, there's going to be so many people. I mean, 1 out of 4 people are disabled. I think that's going to be a big benefit for you and the person who needs that type of housing. But recently, I wanted to start off with housing discrimination because Joe was confronted with that a couple of weeks ago here on Staten Island. He was conversing with a realtor through text messaging. The apartment looked great. He could get in, accessible to get in. There was a backyard, sliding glass doors to get out to the backyard. No barriers or anything like that. Shower, right? Walk in, shower with the grab bars, handheld shower head, and conversing for days with this realtor, and sets up an appointment and goes. And the realtor, I'm with Joe, I went with Joe, and the realtor said, "Can I help you?"
Because I wouldn't go alone. No, I'm serious, I wouldn't.
And you should be able to go along, but, well, that's a whole other issue. So the realtor says, can I help you? And Joe's like, well, I'm here to see the apartment. And she's like, who are you? And
Yeah,
he tells her full name, and he tells her, his full name. And she says, you should have told me you were in a wheelchair. That is discrimination. That is outright discrimination. Joe has now went through the process to file with the Office of Civil Rights at the federal level with the US, with HUD, Housing and Urban Development. And he's also working with an attorney from the New York State Ombuds Office for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The thing is, and I was talking with my colleague James Doherty from the regional office at OPWDD. And James said it, that this probably happens quite frequently and nothing gets done about it. And I'll tell you why. Most people who face that or even a hate crime, and you're a part of a vulnerable, group of people, and vulnerable because society makes you that way. Nobody wants to report that because they're afraid of retaliation. Maybe even some of the people I work with, we may say, no, don't do that because then one realtor is going to tell the other realtor, but with that, we're going to lock ourselves completely out of finding housing.
so Chris, let's go back, because even before we got up to the apartment, the realtor's husband was like, well, we're not discriminating, but.
He says, I don't know if you could get up the driveway because
Yeah,
there's
I
a
don't know.
car here and I don't think you're gonna fit. So I said, maybe they could move it over a little bit. And he said, no, you don't want to inconvenience people like that. So yeah, so it's a great way to start off this. Seriously, because this is our community, we're talking about, Staten Island, but it does happen all over. Not just New York City, not just New York State, but across the country, across the globe. But right now, we're focusing here in our home community of Staten Island and also New York City. I think, we do want to describe what supports and benefits are there for people who would like to live on their own. I said Joe's been living on his own for 20 years. He does get the housing benefit. That is how the rent is paid. Joe does have to pay a portion of it. He's got to pay, a portion of whatever his income is. 30% of that has to go towards the rent. And the rest of the rent is then paid through a fiscal intermediary, which is us. We represent Joe and about 100 other people. The rent is always paid on time.
Believe me, it's paid on time.
Yeah, Joe is very on point with that, with all his bills.
My rent's already paid for this coming month.
Good. It's really beneficial for people who have not been included and have been discriminated against and been excluded, from our community. You'll see that we have people here in person that are receiving support. Yeah, like my friend Robert down at the end, as well as Joe, and online. Before we go any further, I just wanted to acknowledge, besides, the people we support, Joe and Robert in the room, who are very important to this discussion. We do have representatives from state government and city government. And if I could get anybody, please just, raise your hand and say hi. But we do have Commissioner Anisha Argawal. She is the commissioner for the Mayor's Office of People with Disabilities. I have James Doherty here. He is the director of the regional office for people with developmental disabilities. He oversees the 5 boroughs. We have Mike DeSillis in the room. He is currently running for Congress for this district, Staten Island and parts of Brooklyn. He's very interested in supporting the disabled community. That's why he's here. That's why all of us are here, and specifically with this topic. I do believe we may have representatives from government on the call. If you'd like to come off mute and introduce yourself, whether you're from OPWDD or City Hall. Somebody with a hand? Oh, they can't come with me for a second. Okay. Sorry, little technical.
Sorry, I think you're able to come off mute now.
Try to unmute yourselves. Okay. Are there any other people living in the?
Fati and Crystal, if you guys can try to unmute yourselves, I think it should work now. Here we go.
Good afternoon. My name is Crystal Rivera. I'm the Disability Service Facilitator at MOPD. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Crystal. Good to meet you.
Fati, are you able to unmute yourself? Maybe it's technical issue on you. So,
Nina's on?
Fear bubble.
Okay. We can't unmute? Can we unmute all and then?
is there?
It's weird, like, you know, when you usually do, you usually don't have the issue, but.
So in addition to Joe and Robert, you also have another Joe, who's been living on his own, and he's one of the panelists today. And they'll all be talking about their lived experience, and Megan Valenti is also on. She's a self-advocate, she's a mom and a wife, have 3 beautiful children. And she'll also be talking about, you know, her lived experience with finding accessible housing seems to be a real issue.
I tried to allow Mike. I had to like do it for individuals, but it should maybe work. Let's see.
I am able to unmute, so my name is Marilyn Stata. I'm a peer specialist for OPWDD in Rochester, New York.
Oh, great to have you. Thank you for joining.
Hello, this
Good
is
af-
Christopher Bostler, peer specialist with OPWDD, based down in the metro New York City region.
Great to have you here, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Hello, I'm finally unable to mute myself, although most people in my unit love when I'm muted because I don't get to say much and they get to talk a lot. I'm BJ Stachio. I'm a peer specialist too with the Advocacy Office and Peer Support Unit with OPWDD. Glad to be here. Glad to finally be unmuted. So it's all good.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So,
Hi, BJ,
All right, hi.
happy that you joined us. I think this is the first time that we're in a meeting together, so I'm grateful that you're here.
If it wasn't for Christopher reminding me several times this morning, I probably would have forgot. So thank you, Christopher, for reminding me.
all right.
Good.
All right. So, hi.
Good
I was-
afternoon.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, my name is Jadwiga Stachura. I am the mother of an adult son with disability who is looking for the housing. That's why I'm here. And thank you for that meeting.
Thank you.
All right, very good. So, hi. I was able to unmute myself. It's Fati. I'm a self-advocate, a mom also with a special need child, and I'm in a wheelchair. I'm a wife and all that. So I'm very happy that this roundtable, is finally, is being done because we don't get roundtable like that. So I'm very happy that PCCS is doing that because Staten Island is really very hard to find accessible housing. So I'm glad that, this roundtable, is the beginning, and I'm hoping that is going to continue as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you, my friend.
Hey, Chris.
And who's next? Nina?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nina Gritze. I'm one of the deputies in Region 4. I oversee housing teams. I'm very excited to be here today and be part of the discussion about housing subsidy.
But glad you're here, Nina. Thank you.
Of course.
Anyone else? I see RP at the top.
Ryan, if you would like to unmute to introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Ryan Purcell. I'm a person with a disability, receive services from OPWDD. I'm self-advocate. I join the DA meetings every other week on Tuesdays, and I do focus research with Chris.
Yes. Thanks, Ryan. Glad you're here.
You got it.
Like, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm Blake Eagle. I am just like Ryan. I'm a self-advocate. I worked with Chris and Jamie and all of them for a while, and I'm one of the speakers here today too.
Great. Good to see you, Blake.
You too, Chris, and you too, Jamie.
Anybody?
Thank you, Blake. No, I think that's it.
What about Megan? She didn't.
Oh, Megan, did you want to do a quick intro?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Megan Valenti. I am a self-advocate. Recently, I started working pretty close with Chris Marchioni, and I attend DAA meetings every other Tuesday, and I'm here to just discuss my lived experience with housing and how difficult it is to obtain accessible housing. So thank you for having me today.
Great. Thank you.
We just have Joe C. Did you get to introduce yourself? He's one of our panelists today.
Yes.
You want to introduce yourself?
Here's Chris Senza. I'm self-advocate, and I also work at the as a pre-defense agency as well.
Thanks, Joe.
Jose,
Glad to be
you
here.
want to introduce yourself as well?
Hi, everyone. My name is Osam Sharawi. I am Director of the Housing Rental Subsidy Program here with PCCS. Very nice to see you.
Oh, and Christine, yes, please introduce yourself.
Christine Deanhart, Summer Real Estate. I am a broker and work with a lot of landlords trying to convince them this is a good thing and how to get.
Yes. So spread the word. Everyone in this room, not just real estate brokers, but the bankers. Yes. I'm sure you deal with a lot of people with apartment buildings and.
If you guys.
What's that?
Builders as well.
Yeah, builders. Yeah. So we're ready to go?
And Jamie Weaver, if you would like
Oh,
to introduce yourself.
yeah, the person doing all the clicking.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie. I'm the Outreach and Engagement Coordinator here at PCCS. I'll be the moderator today, so sort of leading the presentation and asking all the questions. Very happy to be here.
Thank you. Good job, Jamie.
But yes, so for those of you who might not be fully familiar with PCCS, Person-Centered Care Services, we are celebrating our 25th year here. Thank you, Chris, all the work. And our mission is to create social change. We like to say reconfiguring humankind, supporting people with disabilities on their search for identity, acceptance, and inclusion, all those good things. And our vision, again, is to reconfigure humankind to be genuine and authentic human beings, both disabled and non-disabled, to create a society of belonging. And our core values: support, equity, and acceptance. As human beings, it's our responsibility to support one another and ourselves. And in equity, it's our responsibility to participate in community and have active citizenship. To be a participating citizen, we should have opportunities that are equitable for everyone, disabled and non-disabled. And with acceptance, one of the most vital components of having a quality of life is love. We at PCCS believe it's okay to tell people you love them and to show them and to accept one another for who they are and what makes them human. This is just a little overview of all of our services here at PCCS, from Day Hab Without Walls to ComHab, Respite, and the housing rental subsidy that we're going to be talking about today. So that information is going to be shared out virtually after if you want to dig deeper into all of our services. And today it is our presentation in partnership with the Disability Action Advocates. As some of our panelists have mentioned, they are very active members of the DAA, which used to be known as the Geraldo Rivera Fund for Social Work and Disability Studies. Started at CSI in partnership with us. The DAA meets every Tuesday, and we do a lot of work for planning events just like this. We talk about disability policy, disability rights, the changes we would like to see. So we have a handy little QR code here, and also in the packets, if you guys would like to join the DAA, You know, we're not super strict. You don't have to join us every Tuesday, but if you'd like to pop in and see what we're doing, that would be great.
You know, I just,
Journalists Club, please register for the DAA. We would love to see your faces here. The DAA, PCCS and CSI have been working very closely to have conversations like this and to bring the conversations outside of Staten Island, especially, so, the DAA, please.
yeah, and listen, if we live long enough, we are gonna be disabled, so join them. You're prepared for what's coming up ahead, so, and for some of us, it may be, you know, quicker, it'll be here, you know, quicker than we know it. So people are born disabled, people acquire disability, and certainly as you age, you know, you do experience that. So, I think it's good for people who, you know, are going to be future disabled people, to join in the discussion and the conversation.
But yeah, so Chris touched on it a little bit in her introduction today, but we're going to introduce people who might not be familiar to the housing rental subsidy. So let's go next slide. Yeah, the housing rental subsidy, I'm gonna speak on it, but Hosean, Rob, anybody really, if you feel like I'm missing something, please feel free to jump in there. But Chris did a great job summarizing it, so I'm just gonna touch on it a little bit more. The HRS is designed to support people with developmental disabilities who are income eligible and want to live independently. People enrolled in the HRS program must be financially and legally responsible for their own housing units. So we're gonna just dispel that myth right now that a landlord might see somebody in part of the program, see somebody with a disability and think, how can they manage this apartment? To even be a part of the program, they get assessed to make sure that they can manage that apartment. People enrolled in HRS, as Chris was saying, are expected to contribute 30% of their countable income. And then the program fills in that 70% for the rent. So there's always that reliable stream of rent, which is another great benefit for them as well. People may be eligible for assistance with their security deposit and other living expenses, and they can choose to live alone with roommates or with live-in caregivers. And they can choose whether or not they want to have staffing support. If somebody's capable of being completely independent and they do not want to have that extra staffing support, they do not need to have that. We can go to the next slide. And when we're talking about support, we're talking about community rehabilitation. We call it Roundtable here. And that is a direct service that is optional but highly encouraged to anybody who might need it. It basically provides a direct support professional, or as we call a VSP, somebody that comes in and supports them with whatever help they might need. Again, it's very individualized, different for everybody. And they provide support in all life skill areas, including budgeting, food shopping, really, again, very individualized, whatever that may look like for that specific person.
Technology.
Yes.
But again, so even though like, for me, it's useful to have somebody like that, but it's not a requirement.
Yeah.
It's not a requirement that you have, what do you call, what?
Contact?
Yeah, it's not a requirement that you have contact.
It's completely optional depending on what your needs and desires are for how you.
Okay, so you can have a person that like, you know, gets assistance, but they don't want the contact.
Yeah, we support people that just receive the funding, you know, for assistance with rent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some people also choose to do the day that.
Yeah, that's right.
They always want their mom. They don't
Right.
want people in their homes.
Yeah.
I had a feeling that that's what it was, but I just wanted to.
Yeah.
That's a good question. But yeah, so what type of housing is acceptable? It could be really a wide array of things: a single family home, a townhouse, condo, apartment, a manufactured home. So I think also very often when we're talking about this, we're picturing like a 1-bedroom baby basement apartment or something like that. There's a lot of options that can be part of the program as well. And the housing has to meet OPWDD's housing quality standards, and that it must be a specific separate unit with a kitchen and a bathroom facility, which most apartments are and need to be legally anyway, outside of this.
Yes, it has to be a legal
Yes.
apartment. It can't be something that, you know, some of these homes that were built in the 70s have like the side or downstairs.
Yeah.
And it may even have a kitchen and all that, but that home has to be registered as a legal 2-family. If it's not, then no.
And as we were mentioning, this program is a great benefit for landlords because at the beginning of every month, landlords receive that check. As Joe was saying, they never don't receive it. They receive that check timely. And that is because of the portion, the 70-30 split that is attributed to the fiscal intermediary, as Chris was saying, and the 30% of the council income from the tenant. And PCCS supports the person in every step of the process. So there is no confusion, there's nothing getting lost in translation, there is support and communication every step of the way. And here we have listed some of the other supports provided. So assistance, like I said, with communicating with the landlord as needed, and completing at least one annual formal apartment check to make sure that the person living in the apartment, everything is up to, a good standard of living. And each person is assigned an HRS coordinator, who is the person's main contact for anything related to that apartment and their needs, including but not limited to minimum once a month in-person apartment visit and on-call 24/7 emergency support. And this is just a little sample subsidy calculation for anybody who's curious as to what that breakdown might look like. It says here Joe has a monthly income of $883. So $200 is then taken out to account for personal spending, leaving Joe with accountable income of $683. And his rent is $1,300 a month. So his gross housing contribution is $205 because that's 30% of $683. He will pay $60 a month in utilities, which is considered an offset for his housing contribution. And he would be responsible for paying his landlord $145 a month for his portion of the rent. And the rest of that would be filled in by the subsidy. But again, that is a reliable payment given by the subsidy. And the landlord responsibilities, things are listed here, but the landlord responsibilities are no different than if you're a landlord to a non-disabled tenant. So preparing and executing a lease agreement, maintaining the apartment, accepting a portion of the rent from the person supported, and contacting the tenant or PCCS if there are any difficulties, emergencies, needs. Again, it looks exactly the same as it would be with a non-disabled.
I also think the landlord's allowed to spot check every 6 months with the notice.
It's the same, yeah. So there's no extra, different special responsibilities that a landlord takes on when doing a tenant legalizing scope. And PCCS's responsibilities, as we were talking about, assisting with locating the apartments is something that we do, viewing and approving housing units, reviewing the leases with the people supported as prospective tenants, and processing and delivering the subsidy portion of the rent. As we said, when that rent is due, it will be received. Assisting with moving and setting up and ensuring that people are meeting their housing responsibilities. So again, doing that check, making sure the apartment stays livable and presentable. PCCS is responsible for all of that.
And just to clarify, it's assisting, it's not where looking, you guys are looking for us. We
Exactly.
have to do it, we may need to do together, so we're aware of how to do it. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good point, Joe.
Thank you.
So Chris talked about it a little bit, but we're going to really break down real quick what housing discrimination looks like, specifically for people with disabilities and people utilizing the subsidy. And again, the core principle here is just that people with disabilities and people utilizing subsidies, even beyond this specific subsidy, they have the right to secure accessible housing just like anybody else, regardless of their ability or their subsidies.
Yeah, even before that, they have a right to tour an apartment, getting on that app, and it's very simple, just a click of a button, scheduling an appointment to view that apartment. I think, Joe, you even had, I think she was asking discriminating questions before you even got there.
Right.
Because she shouldn't have went into what's your income and where do you work and are you part of a program and all that stuff. You cannot do that. That
And
is discriminating.
it's crazy because one of the questions that they did ask you on the Zillow app, do you receive a voucher?
Yeah, it's actually a checkbox. I have to check with that. I don't think that's legal. I'm not sure. But to me, that's like a knockout question, right? But we would call it that. What's someone check with that? Like,
Suppose I was honest and I put, yeah, I receive a voucher. And what would they have said if they said?
right. What you did with that last apartment, that's the way everybody should do it. Just schedule a tour and show up. I'm sorry, Jamie.
No, that's fine. So housing discrimination, these are just listed some examples of what housing discrimination can look like, but really with the story of what Joe has faced, I think that's the clearest example we could have. Refusing to show an apartment after seeing somebody who has a disability, blatant discrimination. asking invasive medical questions. An able-bodied person isn't going to get asked about their medical history, their medications, their treatments, their doctor's appointments. They're not going to get asked those questions when they go to see an apartment. Assuming somebody can't live independently, as I was saying before, just looking at somebody does not tell you their full story. It does not tell you their level of independence. It does not tell you what supports they may or may not need. And so just putting an assumption onto a person, that's where, we're already starting off on the wrong foot. Discouraging someone from applying to see an apartment because they have a disability, discrimination. Speaking only to caregivers or support people, across the board discrimination, not just in housing. If Joe was looking for an apartment, we should be speaking to Joe. Joe is the human being that's going to be living there. Joe is the person who matters in the discussion. If he truly needed support answering a question or having information, then he can turn to Chris and say, hey, Chris, can you help me answer this question? We should not be like, oh, so this,
Right.
Joe wants to see this apartment. He's a human being, he's right here, and he can answer for himself.
I also want to clarify, when you guys select people for this program, you also filter out people. You go through the process of seeing if they're able to fold their laundry, clean the dishes, able to do something in a fire safety. So you're not just putting anyone in these homes. They have experience with cooking and cleaning already prior to.
Or ordering takeout.
But
I never eat home, so.
you guys are not just taking someone off the street.
That's a great point, Joe. Yes, so there are assessments done before we even reach the step of viewing an apartment. Refusing reasonable accommodations or modification, discrimination, charging extra fees because somebody has a disability, discrimination and maybe illegal. Refusing service or support animals were protected, making comments that embarrass or shame a person, such as moving a car would be like undue stress on a person. That doesn't make any sense. And denying equal housing opportunities. That is, again, blatant ableist discrimination. And this translates for wheelchair users and housing access. Again, we should not be making assumptions about accessibility needs. People should be able to view and assess housing for themselves. He identified this unit because he felt like it fit his needs, and that was his determination because it's his body, his home. He's the person living in it every day. So it's up to him to decide whether or not the apartment is going to suit his needs. And comments such as you should have told me you're in a wheelchair, discriminatory. And accessibility discussion should be respectful and factual. We're leaving opinions at home. Your thoughts about what Joe can and cannot do because he's in a wheelchair, that's not factual. If he's telling you this apartment suits his needs and he's willing to pay you the rent every month, that's pretty much it. And again, protected sources of income. In New York State and New York City, lawful sources of income are protected, including SSI, SSDI, the housing subsidy, Section 8, and city thefts, and people cannot be denied solely because they're utilizing subsidy.
Yeah, we've had realtors tell people, we don't accept that program. And that is
Example number one. Or not returning calls after learning somebody has a subsidy, charging higher rent to voucher users, delaying paperwork, and applying stricter standards only to subsidy users, all blatant discrimination. But what realtors and landlords can do is apply the same screening standards consistently, verify lawful income and subsidy procedures, and again, provide only factual information about the unit and the accessibility features in the unit. And asking if the person would like accessibility measurements or details, if you have that information, offering that information up is greatly helpful. We can go to the next slide. Yes, best practices, again, speaking directly to the person looking at the unit, avoiding assumptions, remaining respectful. Really, the way we would treat any human being, we should just be operating that way consistently, regardless of the person in front of us. And the closing message for this little portion is, again, just that people with disabilities, people utilizing subsidies, they are human beings at the end of the day. Everybody wants a shot at accessible, fair, equitable housing. And they shouldn't be treated differently just because visually they look different to us or we don't understand their diagnoses. So we're going to turn it over to our panelists. Just a quick rundown one more time. Our panelists here with us today. We have Chris, our founder and executive director. We have two Joes. So we have Joe M and we have Joe C. Great self-advocates, and Joe C is a direct support professional here with us at PCCS as well. We have Christine of Salmon Real Estate. We have Sam, our Director of Community Supports, and then virtually we have Blake and Megan, self-advocates as well. If you guys want to just get yourselves unmuted so that you can chime in with your answers to the questions.
Yes, got it.
Awesome. I have a starter question just to sort of get the ball rolling, really, for any of our panelists. When we are thinking about housing access, what does that look like? So what does it look like for you personally? What do you think it looks like broadly? However you want to answer the question. And whoever would like to answer first, please feel free. Yeah, sure.
For me, it would be like having a ramp and getting your shower done.
Okay.
Accessible shower, yeah.
But the main thing is, the first thing would be like getting the ramp.
You know, with most subsidies, they don't. The landlord doesn't get the rent until they move in, but with our agency, let's say our client needs the ramp or a person. We pay the landlord through that whole process. Let's say the ramp takes 3 months to get installed. That landlord is getting rent throughout that period of time while that ramp's being installed for our persons.
Thank you. Megan, do you want to add the
Sure.
question?
So I'm a wheelchair user. I don't know if that was mentioned in my introduction. If not, I apologize. So housing to me, and accessibility, again, would be like Joe mentioned, the ramp, obviously. But it also means, like wider doorways. My chair could be, a different width than, let's say, Joe's chair, and there needs to be a standard, doorway width that we could fit through. One thing I want to bring up, because I know there are realtors here in this chat, and I'm very grateful that you guys are here. I was actually looking at apartments that somebody had posted, because I would love to move out of my apartment currently. And one of the realtors said, "Oh, the apartment is like, let's just say 3 bedroom and ground level." So I said, "Oh, that's great. Let me go reach out." And I said to this realtor, "You said it's ground level. Does it have steps?" And immediately, "Well, yes, there's 3 steps." And I feel like realtors maybe need to be a little bit more mindful when they're posting about an apartment or housing being on a ground level or a first floor, however they want to put that, and mention first floor with steps, or ground level walk-in, instead of, I feel like at that point I got myself excited, like, oh, this might fit me, and then I messaged and I wasted my time.
Well, Megan, I think to your point, yes, I think it should be more descriptive as opposed to, eat-in kitchen,
Yeah.
Yeah.
washer and dryer. But yes, this apartment has steps, but if it's a one-level apartment, even with those steps on the outside, that can be addressed with an appropriate ramp, right? Because we do support people who are living in homes like that, where we put in a ramp on the outside, to navigate those steps and mediate that barrier.
I guess that's a thing that I'm not really used to, because the apartment that I currently live in right now, I think I had told PCCS. So my landlord, the apartment actually was not accessible at all. There was about 2 or 3 steps on the outside, and because he knew me personally, he said, "Let me build you out a ramp." So I didn't even know, like, I could have a ramp built into an apartment or anything like that. I kind of came into it knowing I had somebody that would essentially, I felt like, do me a favor, and that's what was done. But yeah, so Chris mentioned earlier, accessible, countertops and kitchens, things like that. Even in my situation now that my apartment is accessible, I actually put in for my wheelchair to be able to rise up and down, so that I can, let's say, reach cabinets and get into closets and, I think that that's something that needs to be addressed as well. Like Chris mentioned, maybe a sink, instead of having cabinets underneath, can have just an open space that would make my life, a lot easier. Or there could be, instead of sliding doors on a shower, there could be nothing, just an open tub or a roll-in shower, things of that nature. So that's what accessibility would look like to me.
And I think accessibility, it's not one size fits all either. Like people have different, ways of managing and navigating the apartment. So you can't even just say, oh, it's ADA compliant, because the modifications could go beyond that. You may have somebody that, can use upper cabinets, like Megan said, if a wheelchair goes up and down, she may be able to do that. Somebody may not have that. They may just benefit from some open rack space, around the kitchen, as opposed to all these cabinets and stuff. But I think bottom line, it's up to the person, who's looking for the housing, what that's going to look like. I mean, we all do it. I've rented apartments and I put different things in, that I wanted to, that pleased me. Should work the same way here. And kudos to your current landlord, homeowner, for putting in a wheelchair ramp. That's what we want to see. We want to see people do that, not just turn you away. Oh, sorry, we already measured, you're not going to fit through the door. That's not up to them to decide.
But, Chris, may I also add, like, okay, you said that you'd be able to put in a ramp, right? I think like, for like a landlord, right? I think one of the biggest questions would be like, okay, you're gonna put in a ramp, right? But how long is that gonna take? Like, is it gonna take months before you even do that? Like, how soon can something like that?
So I know, going back 20 years ago,
Yeah,
the ramp that was installed for your apartment.
yeah,
That was a day.
yeah,
It was a prefab ramp, the contractor came,
yeah.
secured it. Megan, how long did it take for the landlord to, install the ramp?
So, I have to say, Chris, I think he did it pretty quickly. Yeah, I think maybe at the most it was 2-3 days.
Okay.
Oh,
What happens if the person supported moves out, and the ramp is still there? What happens with that?
Yeah, and Joe did move out of that apartment after about 6 years, and the ramp was easily removable.
And any bonds in the apartment also get changed back too, then.
There was no modifications to that apartment, but yes, that's something that, a lot of the landlords, I talked about that earlier, that a lot of homeowners, landlords, if you made any modifications in there and you converted a tub into a stroll-in, walk-in, roll-in shower, most landlords want you to put it back. But I did say, we have 500,000 people living just here on Staten Island. I'm sure that there's a lot of people looking for that type of apartment. So,
And it's actually more valuable.
yeah, exactly right. That's a hot commodity. So,
Blake, you want to answer the question? So you can go.
Oh, I just wanted to add something, what it means to me. And forgive me, I am extremely tired. I just worked today, so I'll do it to my best ability. So what it means to me is being able to do stuff or be able to be accessible to things within our own ability. I have a friend who goes to my program with me, and he's trying to, I'm sure I've told everyone this multiple times. I have a friend who's in a wheelchair too, and I agree. We all agree with him. He's trying to get into another program I go to, Hotel Respite. It's a program where you go around the world and whatnot. And so, but they deny him every time because, like you said, he's in a wheelchair, but they don't think it's gonna either be accessible on the boat or accessible wherever he goes, or wherever they're going. But they're slowly, that's what I'm looking for. They're slowly putting him into it, so it means being able to, for me, it means being able to get things you need or want to, at least in the apartment or to have or outside, like something we're sleeping in, like I don't know, like wherever we go. But yeah, it means to be able to do something for me, for that person, and he's slowly getting in. It's just very difficult.
Yeah, yeah, that is another issue. A lot of people, with physical disabilities are reluctant to travel. Because whether it's a hotel or flying on a plane is a whole other issue with broken wheelchairs and the mishandling of them. But you're right, you bring up a good point. And again, it's the way our society is designed, that creates the disability.
And
It needs to be
also,
more accessible.
and also, Chris, from what I speak to him, and what I was told, he needs to join. He needs to join another program to get into this program just to start it. I mean, I don't want to use the word stupid, but I want to. I would rather say ridiculous. But it's just to do
Yeah.
one thing, just for one thing. It's
Yeah,
out of this world.
right. So what you're saying is very important, but I want to get back on track. And maybe
Yeah.
we can go to the next question. Jamie?
This question, really any of the panelists can answer, but I wanted to address it to you, Chris and Christine. About the misconceptions and stigmas really surrounding the subsidy. What stigmas you think currently exist and what do you think can be done to maybe combat it or like bridge that gap between landlords and tenants?
I'm curious what you see from your side.
So the biggest issue with a landlord is when you say, I have a program. You have a program that meets section 8 effects, and I'm not discriminating, I'm telling you straight up what landlords say.
Yep.
I don't want a program. That's people coming in, they're gonna live in my house, they're not paying any rent, they have no responsibility, they're going to destroy my house. And I'm gonna tell you, not everyone is like that, but because 70% to 80% is, it's a valid fear. Now, here's the difference. When you turn around and say, I don't have a program, I have somebody with disabilities that is going to be managed by a program or managed by an agency. I wouldn't even use the word program.
Right.
Program is a bad word. Voucher is a bad word. So now you're taking that out of there. They're not coming, they're not they're just people looking for money or a handout. These are people that have a disability. Now, the difference of having them as a tenant is that instead of me saying, well, I just put them in there and then I walk away. I'm putting them in there and then you can do it in. So you know what? You're a landlord and Joe doesn't do the right thing, or there's an issue where you're having an issue and you can't communicate with Joe for whatever reason. Then you can go and say, hey, listen, I got a problem. And he'll come in. And as far as the rent being paid, also with a program, you get the city sends you a check. The tenant pays the other part of the check. You have very, very, very little recourse to go after that part of the check. The city makes it very difficult. You get this little, and you say, look, $200 a month, but to somebody with a 2-family house, $200 a month would be their kids' dinner, for a week. So when you can't go after that, that's a problem. And you can't. You legit have to be out of it for like 2 years, and then you go after permission. It's not easy and it's very expensive for them. Here, you're getting it with PCCS, not through the tenant. And you guys are governing that to a degree. Where I know that they can leave PCCS and they can do it themselves, but there is a exception that you guys are gonna be there.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, and I think that that's what it needs to be addressed that way, and not as, when I'm calling up and I'm looking for an apartment for you, I'm not sitting there saying, I have somebody on a voucher that needs an apartment.
Right.
I have somebody with a program. No way, no, because what about,
Yeah, they-
nothing, I told you no programs, I told you no program.
No way, no way.
I have a landlord that has said to me, I don't want program. They don't want program. I don't work with him unless I don't advertise his rentals, nothing. Except if I have somebody that comes in and they say, oh, I want a nice apartment, I say, okay, let me call up and I'll say, do you have something? But I will never advertise them, I don't report them. However, they take PCCS. Because the difference is you guys. And that's what has to be brought in, that you guys are coming in. I don't know if anybody has dealt with thefts or Section 8. I'm dealing with
We
them
don't.
right now.
We don't.
It's absolutely impossible to deal with, and as a landlord, I can't see anybody ever wanting to deal with them, because it's just, they pay me more money to do the rental, and I don't want to. Because I just don't want the headache. I mean, it takes me over a month to get them in. When we did it with you, it was like, hey, we need this paperwork, get it to us. There was somebody to get it from.
So can I ask you, I know technically, like, if I was renting an apartment, right? Technically, I would be the one on the lease, but
Yes. And you still are here.
yes, I understand,
still are
but if, let's say PCCS was on the lease, do you think it would be easier? As far as the owner, like.
I don't wanna address that because every
business,
well, no,
different.
every agency is
Different, yeah.
different. So I'm not gonna,
Right.
you know,
And that's not the way
yeah,
that, you know.
it's not set up that way.
We are the fiduciary, we, you know, we're operating a, you know, US government approved,
Correct.
you know, benefit for housing. And, in order to draw down, like a person cannot draw down that.
Correct.
That funding, we can, we work through OPWDD, right, who draws that down from the US government, right? All through HUD, I mean, this is a support that's approved through HUD, the Housing and Urban Development, you know, office at the congressional level.
I think it's
To
more of a
explain-
perception.
Yeah,
And-
listen, people.
Listen, I get very
program-
upset
Yeah.
because there is a veterans program out there that goes under Section 8.
Mhm.
And when I gotta bring a vet into somewhere, and I gotta say, he has Section 8, no, I don't want Section 8, wait, no, stop, I understand what you think he is, but he's a veteran, and that's
Right,
the only way they can pull the money down from the vets. And that's one of my biggest arguments, change the name of that program.
right.
So this is more of an assisted situation here, rather than a program. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's better that PCCS is involved,
correct.
Right.
than not be
But
involved.
I mean, when it comes down to, we all want agency, and so your name is on your lease, Joe's name is on his lease, Robert's name is on his lease,
They just
Megan,
want
and then
an
Eric.
easier way to get the money without
But
issue.
Bottom line is, we don't have to give an explanation. Joe did not have to tell that landlord in advance that he uses a wheelchair. He did not have to tell that landlord in advance that, you know, he receives a benefit through the government. You know, and he was very concerned about that, you know, texting me, that was days of texting me that what the woman's asking him, and I'm like, don't answer that. You know, just make an appointment, quite frankly, and that's it, and that's the way it should be. And it's more than just, you know, that's housing discrimination, because a lot of times people hear Section 8 and they're thinking, you know, they're gonna get a certain type of person that's low income. I'm gonna get a person of color. I don't want people of color living in my house, in my area, you know, all that stuff. It's horrible. It's horrible the way people think about that.
I just wanna chime in something, when someone in those programs, like, let's say, get evicted, they're not paying their portion 9 times out of 10 while they're getting evicted. With us, when someone's getting evicted, we're still paying the rent regardless, because the agency is putting it out. And we still owe the agency our money. We can't just choose to not pay, because then we lose the privilege of this program when we get evicted. When I got evicted on my first house, I messed it up. I had parties. I got evicted through the whole year and a half of that eviction. I was still paying my full rent. And then I had to beg PCS to let me finance for money so they could move my stuff into my next apartment. And I told them the first day I would move in, I would get a job.
And he did. He works
That
here.
was the only way I was getting this apartment.
Listen, I appreciate, Joe, you being very transparent, and listen, when we're young, we do things that we want to do because it
I was
feels
at my
good,
mom and
right?
dad's house, you know.
Yeah, I get it. We all get it. So, but you know, that doesn't make you a bad person. So,
for all people.
Yes, exactly. I'm losing my
Chris,
train
if
of-
I may, I don't know if you could hear me. Can you hear me, Chris?
Yes, you can hear you.
We're good.
So, I feel like in mine and Joe's case, it's a little bit different. You told Joe, you know, you don't have to disclose, you know, you should have told me that you're in a wheelchair. But in our case, especially me now looking for new housing, I feel like that's one of the first things that has to come out of my mouth. That, you know, I do use a wheelchair because these are the things that I'm looking for in my apartment or in my housing. So, I feel like Joe and I don't really have the ability to just not disclose, if you know what I mean.
Well, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but I don't think you should. I mean, you know, that's part of your identity. You should, what else are you gonna reveal? You know, your ethnicity, you know, the color of your skin, the color of your hair. I mean, you know,
As well.
I don't think that, you know, I don't think that should be necessary. You shouldn't have to, you feel that because of the pressure that our society puts on you as a person with a disability. And that's what this is about. I'm glad that we have a variety of people here, especially from government, you know, listening to this, because we need to be talking to the general public at large. And also let them know that one day you're gonna be in that position, you know, and listen, I don't care if there's steps in a home. You can make that accessible.
We had a question on the.
I'm sorry, yes.
No, I just want to clarify, when you say that the agency was still paying, that's the 30%?
No, the agency pays the full amount, we paid the agency the 30%.
PCCS is
In
paying.
most cases,
They get the money from the government.
yes, we draw down the funding. And then we pay, you know, the homeowner, the landlord. And most people are on that ACH thing, so they're getting the money every month on time, no matter what. And if we have people who choose to, we have full representation, you know, where they're representative payee, then yes, we support them in that way. A lot of times, you know, we're trying to get people to, that's part of why we need more ComHab hours, to get people to manage their own money, because we want them to write, well, maybe not write out a check, but whatever, use direct deposit, all that stuff, right? You want people to get there. And so people may never get there. They may feel like, you know what, this is much easier this way, it's more efficient for me.
Yeah.
And other people don't. They want that, you know, that they want that responsibility, they want to learn, but I think what I'm saying is, I feel like, you know, Megan, Joe, if you wanted to live in a 3-story townhouse, you should be able to do that because we can make that accessible.
But at the
Yes.
same time, how do you, like, let's say I found something, right? And it was utterly perfect. And there was, I don't know, 4 steps. How do I go to a landlord or whoever it may be and say, you know, my organization is going to make this, like, how do I even have that discussion?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think that's 2 things.
Go ahead.
So first of all, to your point, I think if you're working with a professional realtor, and notice I put those 2 words together, you come to me and you say, hey, Christine, I have a wheelchair. But you know what? My agency will do some alterations. I'm willing to take something with a few stairs, but you know what? I really need the stairs. Same as if you're looking for a house and you have no disability. What are your needs for a house? What are your wants? So I understand no, you should not be told you cannot see something because you're in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
That is absolutely 1,001% correct. However, I know how to line things up for you by knowing what your needs are. And if, you know, she's got kids, so we know we need a 3-bedroom, and maybe they all don't have to be on the first floor, because maybe, you know, whatever. She would tell me that. She's gonna tell me I'm in a wheelchair, so, but I have a chair that raises up. So I don't need
Right,
good things,
right.
or I don't have a chair that raises up. I need to be able to access things. That's part of working with a professional.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I
You're
really
right.
think that I understand the aggravation, because believe me, I can live it. I'm on the board on your mark.
Yes, I
And
know.
I understand it 1,001%. I am not diminishing that. But I'm also saying my job, you could hinder me in my job because I'm just gonna waste your time and my time. Because you know what? I just found you a great 2nd floor apartment. The stairwell is this short and, you know, there's no way of widening. But you know what? if I had known that, I might have pushed you to another one that's on the first floor and has, so giving the details
Yeah,
is something that I think if you're working with a professional, you should do. Should be open and honest because you're not wasting, because here's the deal, if you turn around and tell me, listen, I wanna see this house, I don't care, I wanna see this, and I take me to those houses and we do it 3 times and none of them are possible to be adapted. I'm not wasting my time.
right, but the
And
thing
if you
is,
give me the full facts to work with, I know what I'm working with.
getting back to the discrimination piece, though. A
No, but you're
landlord, a
right.
landlord cannot refuse
No,
a
no.
modification.
Absolutely.
So it is up to, Megan, Joe, if you found, Megan, as far as like explaining it, how do you even explain that? I think we have to do a better job on supporting you and others on knowing how to engage in those conversations. Because we certainly don't want to speak for you. But if you're saying like, how do we even begin that? That means we have a little bit more work, which is fine. We're all learning here. And it's great because it's gonna be resourceful for us as we age. So I'm not gonna go into detail with that, but I think from here, we're gonna have to have more meetings.
Yeah, I have some individual questions before we open up the discussion to everyone. Joe, I want to ask you just a bit about your experience in the housing rental subsidy program. And I know that you recently just secured a new apartment.
I'm sorry, instead of saying that, and listen, we're all learning here, right?
Sure.
Joe, I think we'd like to hear about your experience in living on your own.
Okay. Should I go up? So it's.
You can do wherever you want.
So no one has to break their neck.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Which makes sense.
Yeah,
Thanks for accommodating us.
no problem. Here to do so. My name is Joseph Cosenza again. Just call me Joe because only my mom calls me Joe. So.
They call us Joseph, like, what we do now?
Listen, I used to be a rebel, and whatever, and when I moved after that experience, it was after COVID, I was 335 pounds. Obviously, I'm not that anymore. I am, 248 as today. I had a lot of growing up to do. I fell hard. My parents cut me off. They wouldn't support me. I didn't have a phone for a while that had a signal. I had to use text now and go to a McDonald's and make a Wi-Fi call. And I had to walk there. I had no vehicle at the time. And I would just be like looking for other work besides fast food. I'd be walking to Burger King all the way and then back, and that was 25 minutes each time. And people were like, why don't you just jump on the bus? Because if I wait for that bus, I'll be late for work and it makes sense for me. And it's okay, just as long to do so. So I was doing that every shift and I was walking that 4 days a week. And I was like by myself a lot because a lot of the times people didn't want to work with me because I was actually doing a lot of positions at once. And all that running around and barely eating and exhausting myself, I lost a lot of weight and I realized it's tough living on your own, but people are capable of it. And just because I had a little disability that I was dealing with shouldn't hinder me a chance of living on my own and growing up. Everyone has their experience which shapes them. And I think I was so grateful for this program that someone said, why don't you work there? And I was like, that's a very good idea. And I wanted to work with people like me since I was 20. And I didn't think I was ready for it, but after all the trials and hardships and learning to maintain my hygiene and weight and my medicine and establishing routine, getting up every day, training on my apartment, I felt like I could teach others. And now I'm a direct support provider, helped a lot of people when I was doing that. I worked with a lot of people that were wheelchair bound. And I fought for, I told them this worker doesn't care, your home health aide doesn't do enough. I was going back and forth, fighting for rights for my individual. And I realized a lot of the times my hands were tied. But when I did all this, they eventually got him a new worker that had home health aid experience. And you know, just because I couldn't help him, I showed people that this guy needed it.
Mhm.
And it takes a voice, it takes people, it takes a village
Mhm.
to make change. And now I'm helping someone that's with cerebral palsy, nonverbal, wheelchair bound, uh, can't have mobility of his hands. I had to figure out what he wants every day by nods of his head and openings of his mouth.
It's amazing how we can communicate with each other and not have to, speak, right? So that's great.
My job every day is just to make him smile
Mhm.
every shift. And that's
Thank you,
enough for
John.
me.
Thank you, John.
Joel, I have you up here. You recently secured a new apartment. Do you want to talk a bit about that process?
So the reason I had to move again, unfortunately, was not my fault. I was kind of forced to move out. I got assaulted in my neighborhood, by my neighbors and other people on his job, basically. Over a parking spot during a snowstorm. I'm not gonna go into the full story. But basically, I was kicked and punched in the head like 12 times. And thank God I took judo a few months back and I knew I should protect my head. And I didn't want to fight back because I'm very young. And I don't want any blood. So I was just waiting for the cops to come. But anyway, I of course got a lot of protection and I had to go crazy looking for an apartment. And during that time, I had to explain to these apartments, realtors and stuff about the agency. It's hard. And if it wasn't for my mom notarizing forms with me on my lease and signing parents for a form, which shouldn't have to be the case because that's never gonna come up. This landlord was so blind to like the process and didn't understand it, and that shouldn't be the case. We should be able to sit down and ask questions and not just turn away anything that comes our way. We gotta be people, we gotta listen, we have ears, we have mouths. Let's just treat everyone the same.
Yeah, thank you, John. I think that might be discrimination as well. That signing a guarantor, he's got a legitimate, funding source. And your mother had to sign a guarantor that she would pay if you did. Is she on your lease?
No,
No.
it's total separate form, but they didn't understand.
A lot of work to do.
Thank you, Joe.
Again, hope to see you soon.
Yeah, it's
Now that it's gonna come off, so.
Okay.
My next question is for Joe. I wanted to ask you a little bit more about your recent, experience that Chris was sharing with us in the beginning. I wanted to just ask you how you felt in that situation and, how you've been looking at have you been looking at other apartments since, what has the process been?
Well, I've sent her a few, but because of what happens, I wouldn't call. I told you, like, there's, I lived on Notre Dame, right?
Right.
There's, I think that house that I told you was 86 Notre Dame.
Yes.
I think it's still, could be wrong, but I think it's still on the market. But Angelica, she drove by there.
Mhm.
She showed me pictures and she was like, this is why you called me, because like, she showed me pictures of like the doorway
Yeah.
and she was like, it wouldn't work. And plus it was behind a gate. But if I could, now, if I had the opportunity to, like you said, put the ramp in and the landlord was understanding, I would definitely take that apartment.
They cannot,
It was
they
literally,
cannot refuse you many modifications. That's discrimination.
yeah, I know, but I'm saying,
Mhm.
like, if that apartment is still available and I have the chance of,
then you should go look at it.
Was it the landlord or was it a realtor that?
It's a realtor, anything about Great Hills and Elginville?
No. I'm an ultra girl, but I do cross the line.
No, I'm just asking.
Yeah, no, I do.
The house was, I lived at 85 Notre Dame, right? That was my house as a kid. This house is literally across the street. I actually knew the lady that lived there when I was a kid, the family that lived there when I was a kid. So like literally, it's in my neighborhood, it's right across from where I grew up,
And what's the address?
86 Notre Dame.
Okay.
Yeah, so if there's a few steps that, into the apartment, the first apartment you lived in had some steps.
Oh,
Then you were able to get the portable ramp secured and that was it.
But also it's behind the gate. A lot of these apartments, I don't, as you probably know,
Yeah, not aware.
a lot
That's a good
of
safety
them,
feature.
they're like, a lot of the downstairs apartments, they're usually behind the gates.
Okay, so, but there's a latch.
That's not
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it might have to be open, but that's a workable thing.
Yeah,
That's not a deal killer. It's not like, oh, we have a very narrow 20-foot metal staircase that we can't, we don't have room for way above. So things like that, things that you can alter
Yeah.
without, like legally you couldn't do. Right. And they have to allow you the option to be able to perform those repairs.
Yes.
They don't have to do it at their cost. They have to allow you the option for you to do it. So, I think that if it was an agent that was there that you met.
I didn't,
Not this particular one. You didn't.
not say 86 Notre Dame,
Yes.
but the one that I went with her, is the agent that I met.
And she has it too?
Not 86.
No, not,
It's a different
no,
realtor.
it's a different,
Who hasn't gotten back.
yeah.
You put in requests to see the apartment.
Actually, like I said, my, what do you call it, self-direction broker, she went and she literally, cause it was behind the gate and because it was narrow, she's like, yeah, it wouldn't work and because there was.
But that's not for her to determine. That's for you to determine.
I know, but like, that's why I get what you're saying. But like, see, that's why like when you see, like, kind of feel more comfortable going with you because.
I have a different experience than Angelique.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
So, but that's why we need to have these conversations with you, Megan, Joe, to get more comfortable. You should be able to feel comfortable, whether it's texting to make an appointment, or getting to know, Christine or other realtors out. Maybe she has colleagues that have, other apartments that are accessible. So it's all about networking,
Yeah.
but.
I just want to feel like I have a voice when it comes to talking to people.
Yeah, you're right. And I think like I said before, we need to do a better job with giving you the information you need so you can feel comfortable and not feel like a second-class citizen, that these folks are turning you down because, you have something that seems like, a Section 8 and that's an undesirable term or phrase.
Yeah, Megan, I have some questions for you. I know you shared a little bit about like your current living situation and the fact that your landlord paid the rent for you before you had moved in. But I just wanted to know a bit more about if you found your current living situation suitable to your needs, and if you've been looking elsewhere and having any conversations with other landlords.
That's so funny. I had my hands up to ask a question. To I believe it's the real estate agent we have in this meeting. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. But yeah, I can answer that and then I'll ask my question. So the short answer is yes. Again, and I think it was simply because he took it upon himself to make the ramp, and the ramp it's not a portable ramp. He actually knocked the stairs down. It's a concrete ramp. He did all that for me. So much so that when he first made it, it was actually a little bit too steep for me. And then he's like, how are you doing going in and out of the house? And I said, well, I'm a little uneasy. So he actually went back in and made it a little less steep, which was amazing. And then if we go into the inside of the house, as I mentioned a little earlier, my bathroom is, normal bathroom. I don't have anything like grab bars or anything like that. Um, but it originally had the sliding doors. And I said, well, I can't really utilize that independently. And right away he was like, all right, I'll take them out. And he took them out for me. But I'm learning a lot through this roundtable, because I also felt like, maybe that was just because he had known me. He's known me at that point for like, almost 20 years. I mean, I was best friends with his daughter. So I felt like it was one of those, you're kind of like family. So let me do this for you. Not realizing now that, I can, in fact, ask for those accommodations. I can say what it is I need. Um, I am looking for new housing for many reasons. When I first moved in here was 11 years ago, and we've grown. It's no longer just my husband and I have 3 kids. We don't really fit anymore. My needs have changed. I want to be even more independent than I am now, and I feel like that could be rectified with a more suitable housing opportunity. So, yes and no, I guess.
You had a question for Ms. Mimi DeHart, she's a real estate agent here.
I did actually really quick. Again, I'm new to this whole searching for housing thing. My housing opportunity kind of just fell in my lap 11 years ago. But so what you're saying is, I just want to be able to understand, if I, let's say, found something from a real estate agent on, like, I don't know, Zillow or something like that, and it was, a couple steps to get in the house, but other than that, it's a ranch, it's perfect for me. I can go to the real estate agent and say, you know, I need to put in a ramp here and not get essentially like turned away or told that that's not an option, because if I'm being 100% honest, I never knew that was even a thing. I'm going and looking at my housing like, all right, I need a one level, absolutely no steps. Like, that's what I'm searching for, and on Staten Island it is virtually impossible.
Yeah, so basically, you come to somebody like me and you say, hey, listen, I want to see apartments. I'm in a wheelchair, however, I do have the ability to do some, and I don't know what modifications your program will or you will, that's a whole different conversation. Maybe will they change that tub and all that, but as far as ramps, I know you have the ability to do that. I know the PCCS can help you with that. So you honestly would just say, listen, we'll do the modifications to make it for me, but I just have to see if it even works first. Because there's no sense you filling out an application for something saying, I want this, I want this, I want this, and you haven't even seen the inside. So I think that, yes, but that's why you work with a professional. Because when you explain to them, I'm in a wheelchair, but hey, you know what? I need one for my kids. I can put in the ramp, maybe there'll be other things that will work with. Because if the landlord says, hey, I'll put in a ramp, or hey, whatever the case may be, that you could get that done. So, I think that that's why working with a professional is the right way to go. I know that you're calling in on Zillow, like someone like me, I don't do rentals. And that's not, it's because I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with it. I do rentals because I know the person. So I'll do rentals for PCCS, because I know the agency, I know the struggle, I know what they need.
Right.
And by that I mean the whole of the agency. But as far as me taking a listing for an apartment, I gotta really know that guy very well. That it's me and not one of my agents. And I'm not being, it's because I don't, I'm not gonna go on showings, you know, where I'm more of a commercial broker, so. You know, residential listings, I don't take a ton of because I'm more of a commercial broker.
Yeah.
So it's just what I specialize in. That being said, most of, and this is gonna sound very general too. Most of the agents that are working these rentals are the newer agents that don't even know the rules. So to say that they're a professional is questionable. They might be very good people. I'm not judging them. I'm not saying they're not. However, listen, you know, I just had somebody call me for an appointment. I'm like, listen, I'm gonna give you the Bianca, but are you taking programs? And he said, well, I don't want to. I said, I'm not even giving you the Bianca. If we have somebody who'll bring it, we're not out. He said, what do you mean? I was like, dude, I can't advertise you under my name and say you're not taking a market. You're not taking programs. And in all honesty, your situation helps that situation to me, because you cannot discriminate against a program.
Right.
And I'm not saying that I actually agree with that rule, because I think that rule is bullshit. I'm gonna tell you that straight up. There are certain programs that I would not want in my house, and I would keep my house empty forever before I had to live. And I have 2 tenants in my house. And both of them are subsidized. But there are certain programs I would not want. However, I'm not discriminating against the program because I have a program, officially what the city would call a program.
Right.
But it's so managed and helped that you eliminate that. You know, when I brought you guys Nathan to Richmond Hill Road, the thing is, he can't say no to a program. So you never see me advertising stuff. Guy's a brother. We grew up together. You'll never see me advertising stuff because he don't want programs. However, he is helping the situation because he's showing that, oh yeah, I do. I rent to programs because he has something with you. So it's kind of a way to fulfill the city of yes mentality without actually following the city of yes mentality. If that makes sense to anybody. And that's what needs to be said. Here, you're actually following all the rules they want you to follow that you don't want to follow without really following them. Because you're not. You're not taking these programs that you don't want. You're taking a group of people that have already, what 18-year-olds moving out of mommy and daddy's house has been vetted that they can live on their own. Your tenants have that. So I'm gonna have more of a problem with taking some 20-year-old from Great Hills into my house.
Right.
Than taking Joe by.
Right.
Because you guys have vet Joe.
Right.
So I think that that's the point that has to come across.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because you guys get caught up into it where it's now all of a sudden it's like, wait, defensive mode, come on, I need an apartment, I'm not getting an apartment and I need to force it in, and that's not fair for you guys. It should be where you have an open and honest dialogue with me and say, hey, this is what I want. I'm in a wheelchair. I can put a ramp in. If I have to, I can maybe do the tub. Maybe I can make some moderations, but let me get in and see what has to be done first and let's go look at it.
Yeah.
And then I might turn around and say, hey, I have this one. A couple things don't work, but let's go see it and see if it is. I have this one, really nice, but I'm gonna tell you right now, it's a second story with metal stairs going up and there's not enough room to make the ramp. Because the ramp is by law, a certain, like it's gotta go down.
Yeah.
So,
It's gotta be up to code.
it's not gonna work. I'll tell you straight up why it's not gonna work. It's not gonna be, you got a wheelchair, so, you might bounce off the car. I mean, I can bounce off the car walking in, so I don't even, that's not even a question.
See, but me as a disabled person, like if I was dealing with you as an agent, I would feel like those questions that me and Megan wouldn't ask other people because we feel discriminated against, I would feel 100% like confident, comfortable coming to you and explaining
That's
to
why I
you,
say professional.
this is what I need and this is where I want to be. Can you get me something in that, like?
You're right, it is, and it's all about relationship building,
It's why Chris has me coming in.
Yeah.
It's why Chris is calling me and emailing me all the time, hey, get my guy's stuff. So I'm just saying, Chris makes very well for you guys.
That's why I love her. She's the best.
Yeah, no, it's unfortunate. Real estate is a 75-hour class online. You take this class online, it has nothing to do with actually what you do for a living. And you go out. And it's not easy.
I just want to clarify something. I forgot to mention when we as a person is supported, like leave a said residence or move out for good or bad reasons. The agency 9 times out of 10 already has someone lined up to move into that place.
Yeah, that,
So the landlord, once they get with our agency, they never have to worry about listing that apartment again.
I definitely agree with that one. It's one of the reasons why I work the programs. When I owned my building, I worked the programs like this.
They
But
have a long wait list.
I mean, there were certain programs like this that I did not work with, that I'm actually very close to, but I was like, oh, take your tenants and go. And then there was charities, and I was like, whatever you want,
Yeah, we are.
open the door to you. But see, Joe, someone like you should go get the license, come work for me, and then solve all of this time that I'm just saying. Just saying.
Maybe, that
You
might
would
be.
make a really good realtor. You make a really good realtor.
Before we move on, I'm not sure if Megan is still there.
Yeah, right there. Megan's on.
Can you hear me, Megan? Hi, Megan. This is Osam. Not sure if you remember me, but I used to be a service coordinator.
I do.
years
I
ago.
recognized your name. Yes, I do.
Congratulations on the growth of your family and all the new
Thank you.
updates that you have. But we have a bunch of people that definitely may be able to help you out. And I just wanted to ask if you're comfortable sharing your current housing with everybody.
Meaning,
Meaning what, we know what you're looking for, but like as far as like how many number of bedrooms you're looking for, what size apartment are you looking for?
oh,
things
you
like
would
that.
just like the details, you mean?
Yeah, yes.
So obviously the obvious of a ramp, or just a way to get in without steps. And then I would say nothing less than 3 bedrooms. Um, so my younger two could potentially share. They're pretty close in age, and then my oldest could have his own space. He's getting up there, and we're approaching preteen years. So, and then one for mine and my husband, and then the thing that really wouldn't work for me, I would have to say, would probably be, the little tiny, what they call them, the kitchenettes, where it's just like, a fridge, and then you got maybe like 2 counters, and there's really no
In the
space.
galley kitchen.
Yeah, yes. I would need something, more of like a kitchen, space, if you know what I'm trying to say. Like, not just,
like an open
that.
floor plan,
Yes.
an open
Yes.
floor plan, right?
But other than those things, I mean, it would be really, really nice to have either like a front yard or a yard space. So just so, we can be outside and the kids could be outside. But other than that, I'm not
That a
looking
deal
for
breaker?
anything too crazy. So
Is a front yard a deal breaker, Megan?
no, it's really not. Right now where I live, I have a little bit of I call it a patch of grass, to be honest with you. But we live on like a very busy street because it's right off of the when you get right off the highway. So it's definitely not a deal breaker. It's just something like I would like them, or even myself, with summer months to have a little bit more of an outdoor space than I do right now.
Yeah, just a preference, yeah.
Thank you so much, Megan.
Do you have an
Yeah,
area
no
in mind?
problem.
Megan, do you have an area in mind? Like, because the kids had school, so I'm assuming that there's a school involved that we want to stay on.
So
Somewhat.
yeah, so right now, I don't mind sharing, but right now I'm in the Woodrow area, and my oldest will be going to middle school over at 75. So I would genuinely, I'd like to stay somewhat within that, this area, or I would even go by, like, let's say Great Hills, because I used to live over there, so I know that area pretty well.
It's
Just
still in my neighborhood.
yeah, But I would say, you know, those two areas would be okay. You know, my son gets bus transportation, so I don't think it would really matter too much with his school.
Okay. Thank you, Megan. We'll do our best to try to help you out.
No problem. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I would love to open the discussion to all attendees now. If you guys have any questions, any personal experiences, any things that you would like to add. I do see somebody has their hand up. They've had their hand up for a moment here. Anybody has mic access, Nisha? Okay. I think that is that Diane? The hand?
Oh,
Diane,
yes,
you
it is.
Okay.
Hi. Hi, my name is Diane Kramer. I am a broker and a landlord and a builder on Staten Island.
That's the one my
So-
mom recommended.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. And I really appreciate all the conversations today. I actually was in contact with Hassam. We had a conversation. I think there are things that go beyond the conversation we're having right now. A lot of them, we build new houses, and we do have apartments on Staten Island. And we're also looking at perhaps building an apartment building. And one of the things that we were looking at were single bedroom apartments. And I'm also, full disclosure, on the board of CP Unlimited. So I've had exposure, you know, I have friends that have had a son in independent living. So it's something that we were interested in. And I think, you know, a deeper conversation about this, as far as from my perspective as a builder and a broker, is the ability to actually build single bedroom apartments because of zoning regulations, and what that kind of limits you to. And also, just from a very practical standpoint, building one bedroom apartments in multifamily houses that are on grade, meaning you don't have to go up or down 6 or 7 steps to get to them.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's even, you know, I understand everything that you're saying. I understand the issues with brokers. And to speak to Christine's point, it's almost unbelievable that a real estate agent, especially just coming out of the substandard 45 hours that they're required, it is drilled into you about discrimination. You spend most of your time talking about the legalities of being a broker. And I have very similar experiences to what she's saying. People saying, I don't want a program, and you have to say to them, then I can't work with you because it's the law. So all of those things are relevant. I would love to have deeper conversations about the ability to build one bedroom apartments that go beyond ADA, that what else is needed. I mean, these people in this room right now are the ones that could tell us what else is needed. It's not just a certain height cabinet. It's things like taking the cabinets out under the sink or wherever, you know, to be able to access that. So, you know, these are, like I said, great conversations. I would love to speak to anybody about this, people from OPWDD, as, you know, we're looking into, you know, building things on Staten Island, how we could incorporate some of these things.
Hi, Diane, this is Chris Marchioni. Yes, I actually just got back from Florida Sunday morning, so my plan was to give you a call this week. I'm glad you spoke to Sam. There is also, I wanted to talk to you about the Empire State Housing Initiative. You know, this gives tax credits to builders who build apartment buildings that are accessible. I think the builder receives some type of tax credits. We'd like to get involved with that. And we also have a representative from OPWDD here in person. We have James Doherty, the director of New York City, and Nina Gritze is on. She's one of the deputy directors. So maybe we should talk, and then I could probably bring my colleagues in, because we would, you know, a lot of it is there's this
A lot of tailoring to individuals.
well, I'm talking about like many people with an intellectual developmental disability living in the same building is looked upon as not being inclusive. And I was talking with James, and I also spoke with the commissioner of OPWDD a couple of weeks ago. She was here in this room with many of the people here in this room. Who gets to make that definition? Right? I want to live where I want to live with people, who have the same interests. I certainly don't want to, live with people who have totally different ethical and moral, outlooks. And, my friend Joe and his friends should be able to live where they want, where they feel comfortable as well. Give me 1 second. And then, so yeah, I think let's talk. I'd like to show you that, that Empire State Housing Initiative document, what the requirements are. Definitely need a builder, or a developer to look at that, because I don't understand it. But I think with all of us in this room, we can definitely, come together and figure out something. So we'll talk more. And Joe, you wanted to add something?
If, piggyback on what you're saying, if I can be involved in any way, I'm glad.
Oh, I'm gonna be calling you guys, yeah, whoever wants to be involved. Yeah, you're gonna need, to do something like that, you really need to talk to the people. How could you design a building for that you're never gonna live in? It's gonna be for other people, so you need that experience, to say, I need this, or you should do that,
Have security.
Yeah,
Chris, count me in, Chris.
Yes, I know.
The thing is, going back to the discrimination part. Like, when I left there, right, I told you, I said, if you remember when I left there, I said, it's not a big deal, I'll get over it. But later that night, the more I thought about
Oh
it,
my God, he was pissed.
the more angry I got.
Yeah.
Because, let's face it, I'm gonna be bluntly honest here. The realtor was an older lady, so what if I said to her, I don't want you selling my house because you don't represent the demographic that I want to buy that house. That would have been discrimination. Like,
You said that very nicely.
I was like, who the hell are you? Like,
You gotta figure yourself.
literally, Chris can tell you, I literally was thinking about it, and I was getting more and more heated.
Yeah,
The more I thought about it, I was like, I want to punch this lady in the face.
yeah.
I just wanted to say, you gotta put yourself in other people's shoes and realize, what would you do if you were in Joe's position? How would it feel to you if you're getting shut out and not heard and not have a voice? It would feel awful. You would feel like you're just looking at. You would feel like a sheet of paper on a stack of piles that was being shredded. It's just like a glance.
Very rare that people can put themselves in other people's shoes.
And even even if you think you can, you really can't.
You're absolutely right on that. Because if you haven't had that experience, you can never know what that's like.
And,
So true, so true.
Yeah, I also and for the it's good that we have a builder on this meeting with us, because for a person that I grew up in Great Hills and Elkington my whole entire life. So, and I was telling Chris, most of the accessible apartments that are accessible are down by the ferry.
Which is an area you do.
Which is an area that I wouldn't prefer to live in. You know what I'm saying? I want to stay within my area.
And you should have every right to do.
Which
so.
is Great Hills and Elkington.
Right.
I noticed before a question, I saw here.
So say the person who needs to do work. That's how about temporary.
Well, we could probably take a virtual tour.
Virtual toilet, it doesn't necessarily have to be, you don't have to actually get inside, but as long as you can get a good look, and if that means a virtual tour, or looking in some of the windows, or in the case where we went, we tried to look through the sliding
Yeah.
doors and stuff.
A realtor can
Yeah.
easily record a walkthrough.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a
They
walkthrough
have
in that
to,
apartment.
they have to go through it anyway. It's the same
Yeah.
thing as if you were going to do an
Yeah.
actual foreign person.
For, just from perspective, I feel like just a virtual tour might.
Yeah. I agree with what you're saying.
You're right.
When that these were person view 20%, and
Right.
to really, actually, it's not gonna work. Leaves a lot to that. So
Yeah.
tell you.
I agree.
You're right,
Do you have
and
access to any portable ramps?
Joe's got a portable ramp in his.
Oh, and that was because I bought a scooter that's like so big that it wouldn't fit
But,
down the actual building ramp, so.
yeah, I get it, and then, you know, and I don't know, we have to look into that, if we could get some kind of portable ramp, if that would
Chris, I'm
actually
sure you
work,
could.
but you know, the thing is, it depends, also what you were saying, it has to be regulation, because
Yeah.
you know, depending on how many steps there are, if there's 2 steps, you know, that, what do they call it, slope, right? I forget what it is, every 12 inches is an inch, I can't remember exactly what it is.
It's a weird.
And if there's 4 steps or 5 steps, I don't know how to do that, but right now, we do have options, and also, like, I went with Joe, I could have went inside and described it and said, you know, because I know what he's looking for, I could have described the colors, you know, and all that, but he also saw that online, you know, with the virtual tour, there was a virtual tour.
That was basically pictures.
It's- And some of us have contact workers like we were discussing, they would help them
Right,
because they know the
right.
individual the best.
So that is also an accommodation, you know, so I don't know how feasible it would be for us to. First, I don't know, would that ramp, we would need a van or something, I don't know how that even, the portable ramp you have. Could that be fitted into a vehicle?
Definitely, I mean, it's
Any-
12 feet long,
Yeah,
so
all right,
you
but
could probably get it in a vehicle.
maybe,
Once I get out of, I don't really use it, so it's taking up,
Yeah.
it's taking up space in my apartment now.
well,
I actually wanted to use the scooter that I bought it for, because I don't use the scooter that I bought it for.
Regardless of the situation, there's a team that helps.
Yeah.
Us when we need certain modifications or a certain level of need is needed.
Yeah.
We're not left hanging and we're not alone in this. So just think of us as we're an individual, we have our names on the lease, but we're getting overseen by the agency and we're getting any help we need that is outside our scope.
right. I know Megan, you have a question, but I just wanted to, James, did you want to add anything and some feedback of what you heard today? Is it different from what you've heard before?
No, I mean, it is interesting to hear, you know, your stories, you know, Joe, you know, and, you know, I was talking to Chris earlier, I think you mentioned this, you know, I suspect there's a lot more discrimination out there that I'm just not aware of and haven't heard of. So it's good to be reminded that this is like a more common scenario. And we're here, you know, our team is also here to assist. And we work closely with PCCS and other agencies who do housing subsidies, so. You know, so there are mechanisms if you run into challenges, your questions, you know, either to ask through PCCS or come to us directly.
Jay, I noticed that when the builder was talking, you stepped out of the room for whatever reason. So
Part of it.
so you were able to catch part of what she was saying, right?
I think she was asking about opportunities to build acceptable housing or
Yeah.
that could be used in housing subsidy.
The only reason why I wanna, because you're from OPWDD, so I want you to I want you to hear what her concerns are, you know, that's why I was gonna say, if you didn't hear it, I was gonna ask her to repeat it, so that way you can hear everything that she was saying.
Well, I
Well, I
think,
think they're meeting up.
yeah, I'm gonna talk to, Diane, you know, you'll be, you know, we'll
Yeah.
get involved in that, and then I think I'll talk to James and see if, you know, if him and his team want to get on a call, you know, meeting.
Because that can be a
And so
quick
forth,
thing.
and
It's
come
gonna
out.
be an in-depth conversation.
And
No, I understand. I just want to bring up one point to that, which is in your benefits. So as Chris knows, I'm already speaking to somebody who's looking into doing this on a very large scale. Unfortunately, he also has a lot of money, so he is traveling on a cruise, like a 4-week total cruise.
He's probably.
Well, which comes into play because here is the one issue that most banks, and I have the best bank next to me, and we've already had the conversation with this bank. So the issue comes where my guy wants to do his own commercial thing on the front, on the bottom, and then do apartments above, that we would then have a discussion, build them out for you, and lease them out to you guys. And then where you guys would be the property manager, basically.
Right.
The good part about that is most banks, and I know this from firsthand experience, do not want to know that your building is leased out to more than a certain percentage to one person. I own the ones directly across from the hospital.
Wait, say that,
So-
so directly to,
So
What
the
you
bank,
say?
so when you get a mortgage, so right now, my family owns the ones across from the hospital on Seaview Avenue. There's 60 units there.
okay,
30 of them we had regular rent, you know, whatever.
right,
And then 30 of them were actually leased to the hospital.
uh,
The bank came in and went, nope,
yeah,
either we're pulling our funding or you're out.
yeah, well, these apartments would be leased to 30
So you
different
do-
individuals,
according
30 different
to
people. Yeah.
Northfield, and
Yeah,
just because I've done some work with Northfield on it already, that they are able to, if you have commercial on the bottom, and because of the individuals, and you just be needing some managing,
It would be considered different individuals, not necessarily.
yeah, each apartment, it wouldn't be PCCS on these leases. We would only be giving the support that we have, that they want, whatever that is.
Each one is getting
That's it.
their own funding, it's not.
Right, they're paid, right, exactly, yeah. Mike, I wanted to give you an opportunity, to say anything, you know, what you heard, how it's impacted you, is this a new
Yeah.
issue for you, or?
Well, you know, the thing is that I think that, you know, I mean, a lot of the policy and a lot of the legislation that works around this and discrimination, it's where the rubber hits the road that it becomes either not enforceable, not culturally practiced, or where there's an issue. And so the types of things you're talking about are the types of things that legislation doesn't fix. It's the communication you said earlier between real estate agencies and the program itself. It's better understanding of these things. There's better enforcement of some of these things, like any discrimination charges somebody has. I mean, my son has a disability. My son is self-direction. And I've been involved in this long before my son was around, but it makes it more, relevant as well for me because I don't know what his full independence level is going to look like.
Right,
And so when I was doing policy in the assembly, when I'm doing policy now at federal level, I'm looking at it from the start of a person's, from the period, from the time that they're born, through their education, the support services are going to meet the transitions between 18 and 21, which is lacking, and we don't have a lot of services of, and we need to focus on that housing, the medical aspect that goes on, all of that, the dental, the optics, everything, the family support, the self-direction, and all these other things. So that's all well and good, but what we're talking about here is actually even more important because this is the functionality of all the policy and whether or not somebody can actually just call and say, I like this apartment, I want this. And as a person, I have every right to go see that apartment, rent that apartment, view that apartment and be accessible to that apartment. So what is it going to take then? Because I mean, I hear a lot also about how Staten Island specifically is impossible. And I'm on both sides, so I'm dealing with both Brooklyn and, Kings and Richmond, but, and we have the same issues in Brooklyn as well. When it comes to this type of, exactly what you were talking about when it comes to, home rental owners not wanting to put certain X amount of program recipients into a building, mortgage problems that you have X amount of people who are on this percentage. So there are a lot of different things that need to be taken care of from a policy point, but a lot of what we're talking about here is literally just that one-to-one human point about just wants this basic thing that everybody else has access to. And how do I do it?
Yeah, I don't think we talk about these things, like they should be talked about in, if you're religious and you go to a place of worship on a Saturday or Sunday, those are not conversations you have with folks, like, I know the place that I go to worship on Sundays, we have like a coffee, meeting afterwards, tea, coffee, whatever. And people know what I do and they ask, what I do and I talk to them about the issues, but that's not typical. And people don't really like talking about this stuff because, non-disabled people are like, they don't ever want to be disabled. Like everybody fears it, but it's going to happen, and you need to be prepared. Yeah.
There's no cookie cutter solution.
That's right. James, you wanted to say something, I think, right? Did you want to say?
Oh, I was just gonna add the piece about, care coordination, for folks that do have care coordination. For care coordination, CCOs also should be advocating for folks, especially when there's instances of discrimination, so we would certainly encourage you. And I know there's mixed experiences, and I know
Yeah.
that, different care managers have different levels of training and, but if you're finding that the CCOs aren't being responsive, we can also partner with.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim.
I can speak to that. A lot of things that we're facing with care managers, they're not aware of the responsibilities of their part in assisting on the individual that they are supposed to be supporting. So they kind of push all that responsibility onto the program, where it should be a shared responsibility. So, educating the CCOs instead of all.
Good point. A lot of conversations we had.
But I think you really, one thing that maybe you guys should think about, and I can make the connection, is with Stand on Board of Realtors. Teaching a class to realtors on how to work with.
We will do that. And
We will take you up on that opportunity.
I think that,
And
listen,
maybe, you wanna, we'll put your head on our website for a little donation
I
thing.
had people say those people.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I was selling the, Volunteers of America building down. They saw me come in. And they saw, I brought somebody in there to look at the building, a potential buyer. And one of the neighbors came over to me and they said, who was that? I said, potential buyer for the building. Is we know him, that's John Bellotti. I said, yes, it is. You're not thinking of bringing those people down here. I said, you don't want Italians? You're Italian. No. The woman goes, no, you know what I mean. That's on your mark. And well, I'm gonna be honest. He came in, he looked at the houses, he saw you out here, and he said, I wanna live with those people, and he left. Because people just don't understand, and it needs to be said, and now it's very, we all know, and unfortunately, I wish I did not know this fact, there's more and more individuals. As we are moving on that are found on the spectrum somewhere, disabilities, and they're there. And we need to get that education out that, hey, listen. I have, there's 6 kids, I have 13 nieces and nephews, I have 9 grades, not one on the spectrum till men. Now I've got one that needs services. I was involved in this because I was always like, wait, I have to be involved in this because I'm blessed I don't have one on there. Now we do, and listen, it's better than I'm on here because, it's like, yo, I need my kid. I get talent tested or whatever, but we need to educate, and that's where it starts. It starts with educating, and I'm so sorry that you were discriminated against, and I know how angry that makes you feel.
Yeah, I get it.
But me, being me, we have to come at this on a positive note.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, hey, guys, you're discriminating, we're gonna come after you, and you should go after the one that did.
Yeah.
Let's try to train them not to discriminate and to understand.
Yeah, that was gonna be kind of my takeaway point here is, we're obviously so immersed in this world, so it's very much natural in what we do in terms of advocacy and all those things, but a lot of what I'm hearing is what a disconnect between both worlds. I know Chris keeps alluding to it, that one day, right, it's gonna happen to us, and whatever, that case may or may not be true, right, whatever, but we're living alongside people that are disabled. And if you're not, that also is cause and case of why not? Why aren't there disabled people in your circle? What are your values as it relates to disabled people? Do you think they don't belong in your circle? Do you not make space for them in your circle? And so my takeaway point here, and I guess my question is, as it relates to discrimination and just, I wouldn't say disability culture, but I guess just general American culture, Staten Island culture, how can we bridge the gap in the communication between the obvious needs of the community and immerse them into just the city's needs and really talk about it? And
Education.
yeah.
It's a lot of, I feel like a lot of people just trying to blind eye to,
Well, I also feel that the two should be open. And, you know, and I don't mean that nasty. But like this, and I'm gonna go more towards section 8, the fact it's being shoved down our throat that we have to accept these people that are on these programs. And it's like, wait, I have a 2-family house. Now if they're on, you can have a credit check. They will do a credit check. Most landlords will do a credit check on you. Only on your portion, not on the whole portion. So they would do your 30%, they can run the credit check on that.
but technically, you shouldn't even have to provide that because you're a part of it, getting subsidy that's like.
Well, it's all managed
Well,
risk from someone that's in the lending.
Right, it's.
Landlords still have some rights too that they gotta.
They can be able, now they can run a background check.
Yeah.
But they can't throw you out, they can't reject you for criminal charges. Where, I'm sorry, if certain criminal charges, I'm sorry, if you were arrested for drug dealing, you're not living in the same house as my kid. So, and I don't mean that, so it just seems to be that right now, everybody's shoving it down your throat. You can't ask questions, you gotta take 10, you gotta take 10. Maybe PCCS comes on the other side of, hey, let us address your concerns now, let us answer your question. And not, we're not shoving it, we just want a place at the table to have a conversation with you and see if we can work together.
Yeah, absolutely, because, you know, having this conception that, oh my God, section 8, I don't want those people living in my house. You know, that's how we continue to marginalize and keep people out. How do they get the opportunity? Listen, granted, run the background check. I agree. We do that here. You know, there are certain, you know, something comes up that we're told by OPWDD not to hire. But, you know, we do believe in second chances, you know, and that's the type of employer we are. And I hope others are like that. But, you know, we have to move away from that section 8's now become a bad word, bad phrase. It's like, no, I don't want that. Now you can't say a program, you can't say subsidy. That's why I'm moving to pension. It's a pension, you know, as part of his pension, and that's how he's gonna pay his rent.
Yeah, we
You know?
can't pull up everything into a word program.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
just,
yeah.
We're just grouping things that shouldn't be.
May I say something? I know, like, when I lived on Melville, like, the landlord was always great, like, I never had an issue with it, I always paid my rent on time. But I've learned from experience, the neighbor, I don't know if they're still dealing with that, but the neighbor that was directly in the house next door, and she would always, whenever you would take her spot, and she would always park in the street, she would be like, well, why are you guys taking my spot? And, you know, I don't know if you still deal with that, being down at Melville, parking the vans or whatever.
Well, that's
But-
not.
Hold on, but you know that, Chris, you know that lady I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
supposed to have.
Excuse me, Jamie, Chris, before I go, I have a little good news, to mention, and I'm sorry for interrupting everyone.
But no, it's Jared.
So when I was working today, I actually spoke to Home Depot, the one I work on, and I was telling them about the DAA and PCCS. They said they're very interested in working with us, and if they could come on the next meeting, that would be perfect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Share the link with them, Blake.
All right,
Okay.
I'm trying to get Forest and Veterans Road to come on, if you guys will
Okay.
allow it.
Absolutely. That'd be great. Thank you, Blake. All right.
Just wanted to-
It's 2:00. I don't, are we way over or are we on time or?
I think we talked to 2. If anybody
Okay.
has the time to give and wants to participate in the discussion further, please
Yeah.
feel
Do
free.
you have any more questions or?
So I actually had a question that I thought of unplanned after hearing you talk, because I loved your idea about having us collaborate with the Board of Realtors.
Yes.
Because in planning this, so for those of you who aren't familiar, we hosted the first version of this roundtable last November. And both times to get landlords and realtors in the room has been incredibly difficult, and I've just been trying to wrap my brain around how to bridge that gap. We tweaked the language to try to have it more like how this can be beneficial, still with limited turnout. And so I was just wondering really to pick your brain and really if anybody has any ideas beyond the meeting with the Board of Realtors about how we can just get that conversation started, get people in the room like willing to listen. And again, not from like a shame on you, like pointing a finger aspect, but just that educational, like we want you to know that you can benefit from this and that, you know, there's really no negatives associated.
I think that's great. I am starting in talks with HPD to do landlord seminars with them. More on the issue of, the other issue is, which you guys alleviate and make easier, when you do take these programs, there's a lot of people. You have like, and you have buildings down by Jersey Street that are owned for people, by people forever. And now all of a sudden you're telling these people that have owned their buildings forever, you have to fill out this form, this form, this form, you gotta do it online, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. Since COVID, there's nowhere to go. There is a lot of buildings down there that are hurting very badly. The building that I just had to step in has 186 violations. Most of them have all been cleared, just not through the computer. The bank is saying, we're coming for you. HPD says, we're coming for you. They said, Christine, go fix this. So honestly, this is, so once we start that, I'd like to add this as part of the programming in there. Because again, it's not just programs. It's, you can do work with an agency like this. Megan, if you're still on, just one quick thing I want to say before we get
I'm
off.
right here.
Wait a minute, I lost it. It was just here. Hold on. Wood Road, no, it's Wood Road. There it is. Just do me a favor, if you can write down 6218 Amboy Road. Take a look at it and let me know what you think. You get my contact information. Then, I just texted with the realtor. Yeah. I don't know what I didn't ask you your budget, which I would not do in this room. Because that would violate a lot of things. But if this was in your budget, this is a great, I think, a great location for you and your family. It would fit all of you and tick off all the boxes if you just told me.
So we'll
Great,
connect.
I'll take a look at it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Chris, I know we're ending. If I could just kind of make a comment to, I believe you asked the question and now so did Jamie, but in a different way. How can we bridge the gap, right? So in terms of people like Joe and myself, I feel like what needs to continue to happen is that we need to continue to show up in public spaces and in the community and, you know, make it known that, yes, people with disabilities do live among you. We do, you know, spearhead regular lives like everybody else, because I can't tell you the amount of times that I've heard, you know, oh, I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about the steps that are, you know, in this building here. Or because if we are not front and center within the community in which we reside, then why is there any reason for things to change? Because according to that community, there are no people with physical disabilities here. So everybody who's able-bodied, they can get around and do what they got to do. And we're stuck essentially back in the days where we were, you know, institutionalized or stuck at home. So I feel like bridging the gap means that Joe and I need to be, you know, front and center and kind of making a big deal out of, hey, we're here, we exist, and this is what we need.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this was great. You know, Christine brought up, you know, talking with Cyborg. I'm writing up, you know, other groups, but I do agree that, you know, the folks that are, you know, have this lived experience, you know, not just being disabled, but, you know, when it comes to housing, you know, how does that impact your lives? So speaking with these different groups, maybe, you know, I think even, you know, we're a member of the Staten Island Economic Development Corporation. when there's meetings that are coming up, I'm gonna ask, some of you to come along. And meet us there in the chamber. Absolutely, absolutely. So you're absolutely right. We're making big strides, doing this work, and you guys have to be part of the conversation. What I've been wanting for a very long time, because whenever I'm in meetings, there's never a person with a disability. And this is great that we have so many people here that are receiving services and supports, not only in the room, but online. And you guys really led the conversation today.
As a person with a disability, right, I feel like very grateful that we have, Christine in the room. Because, she understands she understands the program, so she can explain it to potential landlords, and it's very helpful for people like me and Megan to have you in the room. It eases our minds to know that we have somebody that has our backs and that understands us truly.
Yeah, and I just want to say a lot of us are working on our goals and stuff. Some of us might be getting in tune with our disability and like understanding it and working with it and getting better at managing ourselves. Others might get more severe or down the road and stuff. But I just want to say the program is with us along the way. So they might either take a step back or a step forward with us and help us out, because not everyone has the same level of need, and not everyone is going to stay the same level of need. Because at the end of the day, in life, we don't know what to expect. And us as humans are always changing, whether we have a disability or not, because that's life.
That's a good way to end, maybe.
Yeah, I have up on the screen, and it's in everybody's packet as well. Megan has been crowdfunding for an accessible van. In February, we did a roundtable about marriage penalties. Megan, as a result of marriage penalties, lost most of her benefits. And has nominated to financially support herself to get the accessible van she needs. So she has a GoFundMe that's been running. We're just putting it up there in case anybody would like to support in any way that they can. Yeah, thank you all so much for your time. If anybody has any additional questions, please feel free to ask while we're sitting here. Otherwise, just email me after. I will get